What are we starting with this week?
Oh, I took a sip.
That's not it.
We review.
A wee review, you're right.
Hey.
We've got two wee. Yeah,
I think it might be a wee review.
Well done, Jams. Good
Thank
job.
you, thank you.
Good job. Because you're both right. We've got two wee reviews.
Wow.
Yeah, well done. It says, highly recommend, 5 stars. I recently discovered this podcast through watching Corey's YouTube videos, and I'm so glad I did. It's so interesting to learn about a wide range of science topics, plus the hosts make it really enjoyable and bring an element of fun. I'm studying theoretical physics at uni, so listening to this always helps me get rid of my headache.
Oh.
That's pretty cool
I
that
didn't
we've
know
got
we could-
someone doing
yeah.
university level physics who's like, yeah, these guys are quite good.
Yeah, I love that,
Yeah.
honestly. I love whenever we've got someone that studies a subject or is working in a subject, and they say, hey, yes, it's all right. It's like we're doing something right.
And we can officially replace paracetamol, apparently.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get rid of that.
Get rid of
aspirin.
it.
Get rid of paracetamol.
Stop paying for it. It's free on your
Psych-
podcast app.
Not to put you on the spot in front of our physicist fan, but I would like an episode on quantum mechanics. And I'd like.
Oh, I've got that planned.
Yes! Hell yeah!
I've got a specific guest planned as well.
Oh,
We've got a-
wow.
If you want to leave a review, you can head to Apple Podcasts and leave a review there. That'd be very helpful. We've got another review here. It says, my favorite science podcast, 5 stars. Fantastic science podcasts. The hosts are all super likable.
Nice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's very nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shall we start the show?
Yeah.
Shall we start?
We should probably start.
Well, let's ask a question first. So if you're listening to this, head over to YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, head to the comments and let us know. Are you an alpha, a beta, or a sigma?
Oh. Omega.
Let's start the show. Hello and welcome to the SCI Guys, the show where we talk about the crazy, weird, and wonderful stories from the science world. I'm Corey, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jamp and Luke Cutforth.
Bonjour.
Hello, ciao.
This week, we'll be talking about alphas and betas.
The very clear-cut science, right?
This is science.
Okay.
It's science.
Okay.
What
What about
first?
synth
I want to
boy
ask you
cuck lords?
Sorry, what did you say?
Where do they fall on the scale?
soy boy cucklords
Yeah.
are probably betas, like a
okay.
soy boy beta cuck.
Yeah.
I think they're in between betas and alphas.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Well, if you look, if you want to know know more about a soy boy cucklord, why
Yeah.
don't you just find a mirror and have a little look in there?
You know what, Corey? That's a really good idea. I'll see you in a bit. Where's the nearest mirror? Whoa!
I don't know what you mean. Luke's got an alpha grip on that microphone there. You're gripping that mic like an alpha, aren't you?
Well, Jam, the audience actually can't see that I am holding my mic, but now that you've pointed it out,
well, they can if they're on YouTube.
No, they can't because my camera angle cuts it out. You can see on the webcam, but
So you strategically cut out the fact that you didn't bring a mic stand
I
with you.
didn't strategically cut out anything. It just happens to be cutting it out. All right.
From our point of view, he looks like a stand-up comedian who's just joined the show.
My wife said to me the other day.
So
You'll be
the
able
other day,
to-
right?
You'll be able to say that soon. Very cool. So I did want to ask, what do you guys think you are? Do you think you're alphas? Do you think you're betas? Or any of the other ones?
I don't identify.
You don't
No.
don't identify. Okay,
I'm nowhere.
That makes you
I'm
a,
outside. I'm outside. I'm
makes you a
outside of the
sigma.
dimension. Does it?
that makes you a sigma,
Oh,
yeah.
sick. Oh,
A
cool.
sigma has like all the positive qualities of an alpha. They just don't care about being an alpha or a beta.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like what cool kids are,
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't care about being cool.
Mm-hmm.
As you can tell, this is all very strong science. So do you guys know where this alpha beta idea comes from?
Probably the internet.
Probably
Well-
monkeys.
Well,
Oh,
okay.
actually, to be fair, it probably existed before the internet, didn't it?
It did exist before the internet.
Because that's quite young.
Yeah, the internet's quite,
Relatively,
yeah.
Most
Yeah, it
things
is.
existed before the internet. Actually, oh well, we actually
I
make
don't think
quite
that's
a lot
true.
of
Not
things
true.
now. So probably most things are after the internet. You're right.
Well, I mean, if I would think that because the things can exist on the internet, like a website.
Mm-hmm.
If each website counts as its own thing,
Mm-hmm.
then I think probably maybe most things existed after the internet.
But if every atom counts as its own thing, then most things existed before the internet.
Well, all things existed before the internet.
No. Because you have
Well-
different levels of things. So, like, computer is a thing, despite being made out of atoms. Computer is also a thing.
I thought you meant that the only things were atoms, and I was saying, well then,
No,
all
no.
those atoms were
Just
already
that there are
back.
many more atoms than
Right.
there are things that existed after the internet.
Okay. Well, actually, all the atoms weren't cutting about, but the stuff that made look, this is a pointless conversation. Let's just
I'm
talk.
glad we've got it out the way, though.
Yeah, I'm glad.
There we
I'm
go.
glad. So, you guys, we're gonna talk about primates in a bit, but you guys heard of wolves? You guys heard of wolves?
The band.
No.
Okay. Was there something else called wolves?
It rings a bell.
Did they name an animal after the band Wolves?
No, did they actually?
They named it after the football team, actually.
Ah.
Yeah. So, wolves.
Yeah. They got a
type
new
of
single
dog.
out.
So, do you know how many species of wolves there are? Doesn't matter. I'm going to tell you. There's 2 species of wolves.
Oh, I was going to say 3.
No.
No. Okay.
Well, that are universally recognized. So,
Okay.
yeah, it doesn't really matter. But we're going to be talking about the grey wolf because that's the one that I think you'll probably be most familiar with. There's also the red wolf. So that's Canis lupus and Canis rufus. So there are some other wolves that are sometimes considered wolves, but aren't really. It doesn't really matter all that much. And there's lots of different subspecies of wolves. They live in lots of different places: Europe, America, those places, perhaps others.
Yeah.
So how do wolves sort of operate? What's their whole deal? How do they live?
They live together.
Mm-hmm.
They go around in a little pack.
Yeah.
And then they go and hunt things together, and usually there's a leader. Is that correct?
That's pretty spot on.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about wolf packs. What I wanted to talk about is where this idea came from, obviously, and it comes from, I think, initially tracing it back. The alpha comes from wolf packs. So a wolf pack is. Shall I tell you what a wolf pack is? I'll tell you what a wolf pack is. It's sort of a family unit. You've got parents, you've got the offspring that are maybe up to maybe 2 years old, maybe sometimes a little bit older. And you're right, they go around, they kind of hunt together, they live together. And then at some point, as the wolves grow up, the younger ones will be like, okay, I'm going to go away and I'm going to do my own thing.
Oh,
And they'll make their own little pack.
yeah.
It's nice. Little wolf pack. Just making more wolf packs, making more wolves, killing defenseless animals. It's awesome. And I mean, how big do you think a wolf pack can get, roughly?
25.
25.
Well, the biggest
100.
ones, no.
Oh.
The biggest ones have been seen to be about sort of 20 to 30 members.
So
but
average 25. Well done, me.
Well, no, because those are the biggest ones.
But you asked me how big they could get.
That's okay, sure.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
I suppose.
I
I'm going
win.
to say they're usually about 6 to 8.
Right.
I'm going to say 12.
I'm going to say 18.
I'm going to say that it can be variable depending on how many pups are born each year. I think a litter of pups can be about 6 to 8, depending on food availability
Thank you.
and
6
all of
to
that
8.
sort of stuff. But obviously pups can die off if there's not enough food. So it varies.
Betas.
No, runts.
Yeah, runts are betas.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Fair
All
enough.
runts are betas, but not all betas are runts.
So the large
I
packs
see.
really only happen in large areas with large prey, like Yellowstone Park, places in Alaska. And obviously a bigger pack means they need to get more food. So that's why you find that. So if you've got larger areas, there can be more prey in those areas, and with larger prey, you'll need more wolves to take it down. But also, there's more food from that. So the idea of an alpha wolf, you've probably heard it sort of used a lot. It's used in pop culture fairly often. It's been applied to humans for some reason, and as I said, it came from sort of studying wolf packs. Have you guys heard of this story at all?
No.
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 What do you think about
Not
it? What do you think about sort of wolf packs and how they operate? Do you think the alpha wolf is a sort of
I think the alpha wolf calls the shots, and everyone else has no choice.
so how does
I
a
think the alpha
not
wolf
democracy.
protects the pack.
well how does a wolf become the alpha?
Fights its
Through battle.
mother.
Fights its mother.
Yeah. That's how the monkey did in
Even if
the...
it,
Well, that's how the monkey did. That's a weird reference.
Sorry. There was
To
a
a live-
reference
to a live show?
to an alpha monkey girl who started her career as an alpha by pushing her mother down the stairs. Sorry, no.
I
Not
thought, it wasn't down the stairs, no.
by just beating up her mum, basically.
That was a joke we made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was a bonus episode as
So
well.
did this alpha wolf
was.
push its mum down the stairs? Did it build some stairs because it was such an alpha? It built some stairs and then it pushed its mum down them.
Well, if it was such an alpha to build stairs, it wouldn't need to push its mum down those stairs.
No, only sigmas can build stairs. I think you'll find.
So you got-
Alphas don't have time for stairs.
Carpenter wolves are exclusively sigmas.
This is going to be a tough one to get through. So you guys think that an alpha wolf basically comes about through bullying other wolves,
No.
fighting them?
I don't think
Working
so. I
its
think
way to
it
the
comes through protecting the pack.
Okay.
Oh.
But either way, you guys think sort of the strongest wolf rises to the top.
They challenge each other to duels, and then the winner becomes the alpha.
Okay.
That's
What
my
you think.
theory, yeah.
Right. Luke, and you think through protecting the pack thinks, wow, this guy's good. Or this girl's good. Let's put him to the top.
Yeah.
So in both cases, sort of a meritocracy, but Luke's is more sort of altruistic.
Yes.
And Jamp, yours is more combative.
Yeah.
Yeah?
You could say.
I would
Perhaps.
say. So you kind of do see this in wolves, but there's a little trick. I'm kind of tricking you here. So you do see it in wolves. And this idea of the alpha wolf, it came from, you can kind of go back to a 1947 study which was written by a man named Rudolf Schenkel. He was an animal behaviorist. And he sort of was observing wolves in captivity and saw that, they would sort of fight to sort of become the alpha, and that then alpha would sort of be the top dog, as it were, and sort of rule the rest of the pack. So you'd have the alpha male and the alpha female ruling the rest of them. They sort of, just through dominating other wolves, making them submit, they would become the top. And here's a quote. It says, by continuously controlling and suppressing all types of competition within the same sex, both alpha animals defend their social position. And alpha wolves outrank beta wolves, who are sort of, they're second rung. And then there's omega wolves, who are sort of below them. So the sort of hierarchy there, right?
Right.
And that is how that is what he saw. So he was obviously observing these wolves in captivity. Got a question for you. What do you think is the problem with this?
They're in captivity.
Yeah.
So literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And how do you think?
So it's not their natural behavior in the wild.
Well, we'll
Okay.
get to that. How do you think it might differ between wolves in captivity and wolves in the wild? Like, what do you think is the main difference between these groups of wolves?
The other wolves can't escape if they're being attacked.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the main thing is, I have laid this. It is. I have given you all the information, but it is difficult to figure out unless you know it. In captivity, the wolves are not in family groups necessarily.
Mhm.
They're sort of a bunch of different wolves that are kind of shoved together. And in the wild, as I said, wolf packs are basically family groups.
Mhm.
So when you've got them in captivity, essentially what ends up happening is that there isn't the sort of, here are the parents. The wolves then have to sort of fight it out to get to the top. Whereas in the wild, wolves, the wolves that run the pack are just the parents. So it's actually started to shift from calling them alpha wolves in the wild to the breeding male and the breeding female, because they're not alphas so much as they're just parents.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
It's like going into someone's house and being like, yes, humans. There is the alpha human up top, and the alpha male and the alpha female in this house, and then there are the betas and the omegas.
Mhm.
And actually, what you're talking about is just, here's a mom and dad, and then here are the older children, and here are the younger children. Right?
Yeah.
It's not quite.
I was just thinking, like, it's like going into prison and observing like people's behavior in prison and going, that's how humans behave.
Yeah.
All the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, that is a really good point. And you see that often, because I mean, I don't know how much you guys have watched sort of prison shows. Have you seen how people act in prison?
There's usually a hierarchy, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a hierarchy. There's very strange rules. I mean, I was watching one show, 60 Days In, which is fantastic. Definitely would recommend watching it. It was in a jail, not a prison. I know someone's going to try and point that out, but there was a whole sort of culture there about you can't call someone a bitch. That is like a sign to fight.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Calling someone that is a word that you say. That is the most degrading thing you can say to someone in prison, right? So you don't say it. Or in that jail, sorry. You don't say it unless you are basically starting something with that person.
Yeah.
Taking off your shoes is a sign that you're getting ready to fight.
That's a weird one.
Yeah, I don't know why. I can't remember why exactly. I think taking off your shoes, that shows that you're getting ready to fight. Loads of other very strange things. And again, it's people, when you move into the prison, people will start asking you, okay, what are you here for? This and that. Basically sort of vetting you. And if you don't stand up to it, I mean, I saw the whole show was basically people just spending 60 days, 2 months in a jail, in a county jail, and people that hadn't been to, I think pretty sure it was people that hadn't been to prison before. They just wanted to see what it was like, change their see what was going on in the prison, help the sort of warden of the jail. I'm using prison and jail interchangeably here. I know the difference. See the warden or the head of the place. Help the warden or the head of the place sort of figure out what was going wrong there, how to improve it, all of that. And you saw people that went in that were sort of pushed around by the inmates and kind of stood up for themselves a bit, and they had sort of all right footing in there. Whereas the other people that sort of came in that were weaker and didn't really stand up to the sort of jabbing very well, just immediately everyone started piling on them. Like they would be the punching bag. If you gave away your food or whatever, that was seen as a bad thing. If people asked to trade and you were like happily always trading stuff away without taking much in return, people would just come to you and just walk all over you. And it's very interesting to see that in comparison to human society, wherein, I mean, yes, there is maybe a lack of altruism in some cases, but we do, in quite a lot of societies, tend to help people that are less able to help themselves. Yeah. Granted, in the UK, I would say maybe we don't help the people that aren't able to help themselves quite enough, but there is still a sort of like a motive to do that. You know, whereas in you would say in prison, that really isn't necessarily the case, right?
Yeah, Louis Theroux has a really good documentary about prisons in the US, specifically like super prisons. Oh, actually, I think it might be super jails.
Supermax.
And
no, I think is it not prison?
No, it's people who are awaiting trial, so it's jail.
Oh shit! Okay, sorry.
He may also have a prison one as well. I don't know, but he goes in and he's like asking these guys. He goes into their cell against the advice of the guards, which is interesting. And he just basically is like trying to understand the rules of the prison, and he's just like, but why? And they're just like, it's just the way it is. So they've clearly gone in, and there's this like alternative way of humans operating inside of captivity. Which they sort of download as a piece of software that's how this world works. And he's just like, why? And they're like, that's how it is. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't necessarily make any sense at all.
It's a very specific kind of culture, I think, that is forced upon people, essentially, right? And it almost perpetuates itself like any culture. And it's very much a closed system. People can come in and out, but you can't gain power in the system in any meaningful way, because ultimately there are people that are powerful within the culture, and then there are guards who really hold the absolute power, and so it's a very messed up system wherein if they don't really care, they don't necessarily really care what's going on in there. So there's stuff that you can get away with, stuff that you can't. It's a very strange culture that emerges,
and it also keeps you in, like, you can go into jail in one of these jails with you're actually innocent, and then the culture causes you to commit a crime in either defending yourself or just because you need to. You're sort of encouraged that that's the way you do it, so you end up beating someone up or stealing something, and there's no sort of understanding of the fact that that is different thing when you're trapped in such a system.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you can watch all the documentaries you want, and I think honestly, if you haven't looked into what the prison system is like in the UK and in the US, you should, because it's one of those things where it does just change how people act entirely. And look, you brought up a really good point there. If you can go into prison and then be almost coerced into committing a crime, even if you had never committed a crime before. And I'm fairly sure that even upon leaving prison, I can't remember where I got the statistic. So take it with a grain of salt. Look into it yourself. But I'm fairly sure that upon leaving prison, that does not decrease your likelihood to commit crime. I think, in fact, it might increase your likelihood to,
Wow.
Yeah, or go back to prison, because it's so strange, especially because prison doesn't prepare you for. Realistically, what prison should be doing is preparing you for life on the outside
again.
Yeah, it should be, right? For it to do anything else makes absolutely no sense. But the way that prisons operate, they have created their own, I would genuinely say, culture almost, and sort of a mode of society that not only makes you ill prepared for sort of life on the outside, but also almost encourages you to remain inside, right? Because it's so strange, because you can have so much power in there and then go to a place, leave prison and be entirely powerless.
Yeah.
It's very odd, very odd. So I guess we've got across the point that yes, looking at people in captivity, looking at sort of animals, mammals in captivity is not necessarily the best way to understand their natural behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've gathered that, observing animals in captivity and extrapolating that out to their normal behavior is perhaps a little bit misguided.
Foolish.
So, yeah, a little bit. And this mistake wasn't caught for quite a while. So as I said, this sort of idea of the alpha wolf was kind of first brought up by Rudolf Schenkel in 1947. How long do you think it took for this to sort of be, let's say, debunked?
40 years.
I was thinking about 40, yeah. 40 to 50.
Ooh, 53.
What?
52 years.
So in 1999.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
oh my goodness.
So let
Half a
me
century.
explain. Let me explain what I mean by that more fully. Yeah, half a century. Ridiculous, right? So to more fully explain what I mean, it wasn't necessarily Rudolf Schenkel that continued to perpetuate the idea or to popularize the idea. The idea was popularized by a man named David Meach. So David Meach made a book called The Wolf, Ecology and Behavior of an Endangered Species. He published that in 1970. Very popular book. And in that he spoke about alphas, and he said that wolves won control of their packs in violent fights with other males. So David Meach noticed that there was an issue with what he'd published, and he tried desperately to recall his book and pull it back. He published, I think, a paper in 1999 talking about how actually what happens in the wild is just family groups. It's just families, right? And in captivity, obviously, it's very different. But there is no alpha wolf that is sort of naturally ingrained in wolves as their normal social structure. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. You're a wolf. You find a mate. Naturally ingrained in their normal social structure.
Wow, no,
that being one that is not in captivity.
I just find that so interesting. That it's not only so it's not even like a patriarchal structure or a matriarchal structure where one wolf is in charge.
Well, the parent wolves are in charge.
Okay, but there's not one single parent in charge, for example.
I think it might depend, but I think the male is probably in charge.
Right.
But the male and there's obviously kind of a leader of the pack, but the male and female lead the pack together in a sense.
And I guess maybe you don't see the kind of things you might expect to see in alphas where like the alpha is demanding preferential access to food because it's their family. So they're not going to be screwing over their own family because that wouldn't be very beneficial genetically for them to do that.
I mean, ultimately, when if you're raising pups, you're not going to be like, I eat food first, pup. And then
unless you are the mother and you need to make the pups some milkies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, this episode is not diving a deep dive on the actual sort of social structure of wolves. The point to get across. We can do that. We can absolutely do that. The point to get across here is that wolves are not naturally, let's say, as in not in captivity. They are not a species they're not animals which sort of fight it out to be the top member of a group. They just find a mate. They have that mate. They then produce offspring, and that offspring becomes their pack until they leave and mate, and then again and again, and it continues itself. It's, I think, more similar to actual, quite hilariously actually, I think it's more similar to actual human social structure than the idea of alpha wolves is to this imagined ideal of human social structure.
Especially like back in the day when you wouldn't move out as early and you would like go and find a partner, and then you might even live with your parents for a little bit. Like it's not quite so like there's not like a child wolf grows up and then just leaves and wanders around for ages on their own, being a lone wolf for a bit, and then they find a mate, and then maybe it is, I don't know, you may not have seen that, but I find it very interesting that essentially the story you've just told is that the origins of the idea of an alpha in a pack situation turned out to be not real. They turned out to be not true. So the whole concept is flawed. At least its origins are flawed.
Yeah, its origins in terms of coming from the wolf is certainly flawed. Obviously, again, to be totally clear, that does not mean that wolves don't dominate each other and that wolves aren't submissive to each other. That still happens. There are still dominance sort of displays and all of this, right? But the point is that these are not wolves vying to get to the top of the sort of the pack,
Right.
because the top of the pack is generally it's just the mummy and daddy, which is why they've shifted from calling it the alpha wolf and the male alpha and the female alpha to the male breeding wolf and the female breeding wolf, because that's what they are.
I find it
Right,
interesting as well that, I mean, surely to a certain extent, other than pack being maybe like a collective noun for a bunch of wolves, the idea of a pack is almost irrelevant then, because it's just a family of wolves. Because a pack to me would be like, well, a pack is like they're not necessarily related. They don't like, because the structure is that they're in a pack, whereas the structure is that they're a family.
Yeah, but I mean that can apply to many.
But if you and I and Jamp and Noah and Phoenix like decided to start roaming around together, we could call ourselves a pack. But if we were all related, then we could call ourselves a pack, but we are also just a family.
Yeah, true. I mean, I think a way of looking at it, the way I would look at it is this: if you have, I mean, you still have the male and female wolf, which are unrelated, that are having the offspring together, right?
Yeah, but
And so then they're the parents.
Ideally, always true.
Yeah. So you've got them, right? And it's the fact that the pack of the wolf pack is just essentially small enough to be a family unit. I think that is the main thing here. It's not necessarily multiple families, but even then, if you were to then extend it out to be multiple families, then the wolves wouldn't necessarily need to leave the pack to find a mate, right? Because they would be able to mate within that group, and then through that, the wolf pack would be a family anyway. You see what I mean?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I just find the word pack misleading here, because it's just a family.
I think that's because our understanding of wolves has generally come from wolves in captivity.
Yeah.
Wherein you take a bunch of wolves, you're like, you're all a family now. You got to get on. And it's like a fun sitcom, like Community or Friends, where they're all in a community or they're all friends. I love when shows tell you exactly what they are, just the title. Wolves.
I was trying to think of another one. No, doesn't matter.
Parks and Recreation. The Office.
The Office.
Yeah.
My mind went to the Big Bang Theory, and I was like,
They're all Big Bang
that
Theories.
doesn't happen in that doesn't happen in the show.
I mean, it does.
To be fair,
The
in
opening
title.
sequence.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
there you go.
Fine, it does work.
It does.
Thank you.
No, but the idea of Wolfpack comes from wolves in captivity, so it's a bit odd that we've then sort of tried to say this is how wolves are. And as I said, it is the parent wolves that are sort of the leaders of the pack. And so I'll just read this. Meats wrote, essentially, that wolves split off from their packs when they mature, seek out opposite-sex companions with whom to form new packs. The male and female co-dominate the new pack for a much simpler, more peaceful reason. They're the parents of all the pups. Very straightforward. And Meats has got a bunch of websites. In fact, he's actually got some of the original papers from the 40s in PDF form on his website, all linked below. He's also got his own papers there as well. But he's this is a quote from his website. He says, "It's currently still in print, despite my numerous pleas to the publisher to stop publishing it." Speaking of his book from 1970, which just isn't this is what's frustrating, right? I've seen people comment on videos that I've watched saying, good on Meats for being able to kind of go back on what he said, like good on him. Not good on him. That's what you're supposed to do. That's how science is supposed to work. What is frustrating is that there is an idea that is provably false, that has been sort of recalled by the sort of the author of the sort of work, and yet it is still in circulation because it'd be making money.
Yeah.
It's been printing them dollar bills.
Publisher doesn't care.
They don't care.
No.
Does the publisher care if it's correct or not, or do they care about how much money it makes? I feel like at this point, if it's been out for that long, even a reprint saying, "Hey, this is incorrect," would be great. But it just seems
the bare minimum. The bare minimum.
Absolute bare minimum. So yeah, that idea has been out for a while, and they've been trying to sort of recall it, but it hasn't. I've got the abstract from the paper that was published in 1999 by David Beach. It's called Alpha Status, Dominance, and Division of Labor in Wolf Packs. Essentially, the paper just talks about it basically talks about the idea that we spoke about initially, the alpha wolf, and how that is only in captivity, and in basically every sort of study of wolves in the wild, it just doesn't hold true. And again, as I've said, dominance still exists in wolves, and the alpha wolf does exist. It's not a completely fake idea. It's just, again, like you said,
under very specific circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if
restrictive circumstances.
Sure, and I think that if you're going to talk about alphas and betas and sigmas and omegas and all of that rubbish, and apply it to people, go ahead, but make sure you're only talking about people in captivity.
We are trapped in society, Corey. You don't understand.
No.
Well,
You don't get it.
You're
Thank
right.
you.
Wow.
2 against 1.
Well, you're going to go Joker now, are you? Going to paint your face?
Yeah,
Go
sure.
full Joker? Yeah, if you want to talk about alphas in regards to people, make sure you're getting the full story here, because it would really only be people in specific circumstances that are unlike our natural ones. Our natural ones. And
Really?
that kind of
But they're not. But they're not alphas in like monkey packs or gorilla packs and that kind of thing.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. That's what I was going to get to. So first, just before we get on to that, I want to talk about human behavior and mapping sort of animal behavior onto humans, right? So, I mean,
Like reverse personification.
yeah. Do you know what? No, actually, scratch that. Let's save that to the end. Let's talk about primates. So, look, what was that you were saying just there?
Well, so what I was wondering is if you're using wolves as like, okay, well, alphas don't exist in wolves. Alphas exist in wolves in captivity. Therefore, don't apply the concept of alphas to people unless those people are in captivity. My follow-up question to that would be, well, but we'd be applying the concept of alphas in sort of monkey or primate species to people not in captivity. Do primate species exhibit alpha structures in their societies?
Yes, and I'm so glad that I can read your mind, because I have an entire section here called chimpanzees and bonobos. What do you think is special about chimpanzees and bonobos?
They have alphas.
Well, yes, but in regards to humans, what is special about
they're
them?
the closest relatives to us.
Yeah, they are our closest living relative. That's right. So they're very similar to each other, bonobos and chimpanzees. In fact, bonobos until I think 1927
Were the same species. That's when we split.
No, actually though, like that's actually bonobos and chimpanzees were considered the same species.
Oh,
until
sorry, I thought you
1927.
meant bonobos and people.
No, I know. But bonobos and chimpanzees were considered. But chimpanzee was bonobos. I think were considered sort of pygmy chimpanzees until 1927, I think, which is when we realized, hey, these are different things, and they're very similar to each other. They share 98.7% of their DNA with humans, and as I said, they're our closest living relatives. And what do you guys know about chimps' social structure and bonobo social structure? Do you know anything about either of them? Actually, let's start off with chimps. What do you know about chimps? We'll go into bonobos later.
In my head, chimps exist in mayhem, where they're just all going at each other. But I don't know. I've never actually looked into
I
it.
want to look inside your head and just see chimps just like
Filling in banana peels at each other, stuff like that.
Not quite.
No?
Luke, do you know anything about chimps? You seem to be.
No.
Is this conjecture that you're?
No, not
you've been
really.
talking-
I don't really know anything about chimps necessarily. They clean each other. That's what I know.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh,
so
that would
chimps do have.
suggest that they kind of like, maybe they've got dominance in there if they if one of them's cleaning another one.
Yeah, so chimps actually do have alphas. The alphas tend to be males. In fact, I think they're pretty much all males. I've not seen anyone say that they're a female, but chimpanzees have male alphas. And they do get to the top of the chain by essentially sort of having fights of dominance with other chimps. But also, they're not. How would you describe an alpha first? Let me just like sort of set myself up here.
The
How would you describe
biggest
an alpha?
one.
Just the biggest one?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
toughest, most angriest, and the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when using alpha to describe a human, what kind of human would you use to describe use that word to describe?
Well, I wouldn't use it to describe a person, but I would imagine people would use it to describe someone like Dwayne Johnson.
Dwayne Johnson's personality is probably more like an alpha chimpanzee than most people would usually consider. So generally, I think when people use the word alpha, they're using it to refer to someone that's kind of almost a bully. Let's say someone that's big and strong and
Beta,
can
strong
take.
beta energy. You're just trying to create the image of alpha, but nah.
Look, you're applying
So
your own.
Sigma.
But Donald Trump, right? People have called
Yeah.
Donald Trump an alpha. In fact, his son's
Sure,
called
people
himself
have also
an
called
alpha.
Donald Trump the
Really?
second coming of Jesus Christ, Corey.
Yeah, I know, but these are the kind of people that use alpha unironically.
Yeah, but that's because they're not alphas.
Look, okay, right. We need to extract your own. Right. Let's put ourselves in the mindset of someone who uses the term alpha
Right.
unironically.
I reckon
Okay.
it could be synonymous with Chad, you know?
Yeah, Chad.
Like a Chad.
Yeah, kind of like a Chad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, someone that's kind of big, strong, takes what they want,
Mhm.
don't care about other people's feelings,
Unbothered.
do not care about women whatsoever,
Yeah.
and women just fall for them because they're so uncaring, right? Do you guys agree with that?
I
would
agree
say
that
so.
would be the general like use of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Good. That's all I'm asking. And that doesn't apply to alpha chimpanzees. So alpha chimpanzees, there's actually a man named I've not got Franz Duval, who is a sort of chimpanzee researcher, who also sort of published something that whose work was kind of taken out of context, I suppose. And he did I think a 15-minute TED talk, which you can watch actually, where he talks about how the idea of alphas being big, strong, angry, and uncaring, it's not really true, because if you look at chimpanzees, while the alphas are big and strong and they do sort of fight other males, and they get themselves to the top, or because the way that the structure works is the male chimpanzees will, once they reach a sort of adolescence or a certain age, they'll move out to find another group where they'll be kind of on par with the females. They'll move to the top of the females, and then they'll start fighting the males and move to the top of the males. Once they're at the top, they're the alpha, right?
Wow.
But they also care about the rest of the chimps. It's kind of what Luke was saying at the start,
Aw.
where the one that sort of protects them. So the alpha chimpanzee is generous, is kind. They'll help others because they'll get respect.
Well,
right?
That's cute.
Yeah, it is. It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is a quote from him. He says, "You should not call a bully an alpha male. Someone who is big and strong and intimidates and insults everyone is not necessarily an alpha male." Basically, what he's saying is that chimps understand that being big and strong will help you take power, but being nice to other chimps will help you keep power.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Because I would say that you have like an alpha and then you have like a true alpha. And then alpha is like what you're saying, like a bully. Someone would describe it as an alpha because they sort of want to back them because they think it will get stuff for them too. And then you have a true alpha, which is like a benevolent king or queen if you had a female alpha, which you don't seem to in this species. Somebody who can assert power, but only in order to kind of keep the peace and also to help people. And they're the biggest and strongest, maybe because also it means that their reign is also stable because no one can knock them off the top spot as well. Because you wouldn't want an alpha someone at the top who can also easily be defeated, because then you don't want to give them your backing, because it's like, well, you're backing a losing horse.
But also, I feel like you wouldn't want someone at the top who doesn't have your interest, right?
Yeah.
What's the point of backing? What's the point of sort of fighting for the person at the top when they make your life objectively worse? Now, we could ask that question to a lot of Tory voters, and I'm sure we'd get some interesting answers. But like, obviously, sorry.
Bloody hell.
There are no alpha Tories.
Seriously, though. Seriously,
There are alpha Tories, but not true alpha Tories.
People call them alphas, but it's all fake.
Guys, I really, really don't want to get into people's heads that we can use the term alpha to accurately describe
All right.
people. It's all in good fun, but alphas in humans, let's just retire that idea. I think it's so
That's a
outmoded.
pretty beta thing to say, Corey.
Jesus Christ.
So Mother Teresa's like an alpha, isn't she? Because she cares about
Well,
people.
no, because she's a woman.
Yeah, but
alphas-
she's also not a chimpanzee.
Alphas, when we're... Listen
out
to
of
anyone that
context.
talks about alphas. When have they ever spoken about a woman being an alpha?
I'm
talking about humans,
You
I'm not-
last week.
What?
You
No,
talking
oh my
about
God.
the monkey, the macaque
Right.
monkey that was the
No,
alpha.
that was... Oh my Lord. When we're talking about alphas in reference to humans,
Yeah.
right? And not necessarily we, because that's not an idea that we really subscribe to. when people that use alpha unironically
Yeah.
talk about alphas, they don't tend to use it in reference to women
Sure.
because women don't enter into this.
Or if they do,
this
they
equation.
call them female alphas. You have to clarify.
To clarify, yeah, exactly. We don't tend to view women as alphas because they are submissive to men in this mindset, right? The
In this
hierarchy
mindset, yeah.
goes, in this mindset. Obviously, in this mindset, all of this is rubbish and crazy. I think genuinely,
Spoilers.
I feel like I almost don't need to say that because it's so obvious, but I guess I have to say it now. These ideas are batshit. So we kind of discussed this, right? That chimpanzees do have alpha males, but the alpha males are more caring than the sort of the general concept of an alpha male, right? The general concept of an alpha male being someone that just takes what they want, dominate others, and really think mostly of themselves rather than thinking of others. Whereas in chimpanzees, the alpha males, they do dominate other chimps. They do rise to the top through violence, but they're also caring for the other chimps in their group because, of course, they're the leaders of the group. They've got to be. We've spoken about this. If you're not caring for your group, then you're going to have less loyalty from that group. So there is a balance to be struck there.
Would it be fair to say
beat
that?
them up and then cuddle them.
Would it be fair to say that?
BDSM, champ, and that should stay within the confines of your bedroom.
Would it be fair to say that, to a certain extent, as long as in the battling process between the alphas, none of the other chimps get killed, it's kind of to the benefit of the group for the strongest one to be at the top?
Well, yes and no. I mean,
in terms of stability. Otherwise, if it was like a constant, otherwise it'd be just constantly battling. If there was this unstable alpha at the top.
Well, that's if fighting physically was what led one to becoming the alpha.
I thought you just said that
So,
it did.
okay, no, it does. So so what I'm saying is, yes, in that social structure wherein fighting leads you to sort of rise through the ranks socially, then yes, it does benefit the group for the strongest to be, but then to be at the top. But then if there were a different method for rising through the ranks socially, then it wouldn't necessarily benefit the group for the strongest to be the top. It only benefits the group for the strongest to be at the top because to get to the top, you need to be stronger.
So, Corey,
does that make sense?
Yeah. In your opinion, who is the chimp alpha of the world right now?
Boris Johnson.
No, not Boris Johnson. The chimp alpha of the world right now.
Yeah, he could be alpha.
I don't know any chimps.
No, yeah.
No, Corey, stop avoiding the question.
What about Nim Chimpsky? Is he?
He's dead. Long dead.
Damn.
Well, who is leading the world right now? It's not Biden. He's not an alpha.
No.
And Putin's a total sigma.
Is he?
Well, he's that
No.
like colloquial alpha, like bully, gets the top, is the strongest, dominates, and then is just horrible to everyone.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's an effective question.
Okay.
No,
well,
not
I'm sorry
effective.
for my ineffective questioning.
I don't think it's a question that will teach us anything. So, moving on. As I said, chimpanzees, they're still nice to each other. Even if there's the alpha, they're not necessarily bullies. And the alphas and chimps are males. All of that. So even then, the concept of alpha when looking at chimps doesn't necessarily work, right? Because people will view being an alpha as being a strong male that just dominates other males. Now, there's kind of a spanner thrown in the works when you look at bonobos. So the chimps, there's a bit of an issue. It kind of falls through a little bit, but you can still be like, okay, yeah, being strong, being an alpha, that's a natural human thing. Look at chimps. When we look at bonobos, that kind of falls through. Why do you think that might be? Like, what do you know about bonobos? Tell me, just throw out anything you know about bonobos.
Are they socialist?
No. They're
Planned economy.
chimps.
Well, do they exhibit socialist traits?
No, they're apes. What socialist traits would an ape do?
Like
Exhibit.
sharing all the food equally between everyone according to need.
Seizing the means of production.
Look, as far as I'm aware, I don't know whether bonobos are anti-capitalist or capitalist. The only animal which
No
I can
comment yet.
look, the only animal which I can sort of accurately place in their sort of economic views, are pigs because they're dirty capitalists, as we all know.
Really?
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, capitalist pig. You never heard that before?
Well, I've heard it, sure.
I didn't
but
know
we
they
don't-
meant a literal pig.
Yeah.
Not every
Literal pigs are
human
capitalists.
saying is necessarily accurate to the animal.
That's
it
why
comes
Animal
from.
Farm was such an odd book to read, because those pigs became like, you know, they weren't capitalists, which was very odd,
It's very,
very strange, very out of character for pigs.
Horror's best when it turns life on its head. So unexpected.
What is George Orwell's Animal Farm if not a horror novella, right?
About socialist pigs.
Okay, right. So what do we know about bonobos?
Are they the ones with funny bottoms?
No.
No, I don't know anything about bonobos. I'm sorry, Corey.
I do not know a single thing about bonobos.
You don't?
No.
I think the most famous thing about bonobos is how they have sex, or rather,
Oh
that
yeah, they
have sex.
constantly have sex to make up with each other and like be friends.
Yeah. So, this is
Oh,
to put it incredibly simply. Sexual activity replaces a lot of aggression with bonobos. So they'll have sex not for reproduction, often, in basically all forms. Families, like sort of related ones, have less to no sort of sexual contact, is what I've read, but there still might be some.
What a relief.
Essentially, there's genital rubbing in bonobos to sort of appease other bonobos, and as form of like sort of love, and as form of like
tension
I
release.
guess dominance. There is violence with bonobos. If they meet another group of bonobos, they will murk them if they have to. They will fight, but
They're not gonna screw them. They have standards. They'll just fight.
yeah, they'll just fight. As a and hey, maybe once the fighting's done, there might be some time for
Maybe.
but they do. There is aggression in bonobos, but there is also a lot of sexual activity as well.
which-
not for reproduction.
Which primate is it where the I find this so funny. So there's like a primate, it might have been chimps, I can't remember, where the alpha, if you were to have alphas in this species, basically has like control, or like has like all the females are mating with the alpha, but then the females will also then go and secretly mate with not the alpha, just not let the alpha see.
Maybe silverback gorillas.
Maybe. I just find that so funny. It's great.
Maybe. But yeah, no, this is interesting because there's lots of different methods by which males will have sex with females. So in some species, this is talking about all animals, all sexually reproductive animals. So in some species, the males that are big and strong will, get all the females, but also there's other males that this isn't a specific kind of fish. There's other males which kind of look like females, which then end up being able to reproduce with the females by looking like females and kind of getting in with their groups.
Yes.
And looking like a female and joining the male sort of like group, like harem of females,
Brilliant.
Oh my god.
secretly having sex with them
Wow.
by looking like a small female. There's loads of there's so many different sort of social or sexual sort of there's structures for animals to have a sort of sexual reproduction with each other. It's great.
It's a turf's worst nightmare, isn't it?
Oh, they hate it.
They
Wait till
hate
they
it.
find out about clownfish. They're gonna go nuts.
What happens with clownfish?
Well, if the female the main breeding female dies, then then the male will turn into a female.
Yes.
Oh no.
But yeah, no. With bonobos, there is that sort of sexual I don't even want to say reproduction. That sort of sexual activity, non-reproductive sexual activity, to sort of bond, resolve conflict. And another really interesting thing is that they are more female-led than they are male-led. Bonobos.
Ah.
So, yeah, from what I've read, females are kind of the leaders there, more so than males. And I find that very interesting because in our closest, we talk about, oh yeah, males we're the leaders. We rule it, right? We are in charge, and it's natural for men to be in charge.
We literally
women are
always
naturally
talk about that.
submissive.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always do that.
The three of us.
Whenever we're
Cool.
off pod, that's
Good
As soon as the
me.
lights go off.
Corey
That's
mostly,
it.
but the rest of us,
Yeah.
we join in.
I mean, you guys join. I mean, I think it really is. It is mostly a sort of diatribe on my part, but I guess you guys do
Peer
chip in here
pressure
and there.
mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, being the alpha, it makes sense that I
Yeah,
would dominate the
absolutely.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ask clarifying questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
much like this podcast, except
Yeah,
less
exactly,
interruptions,
yeah.
fewer interruptions. Yeah.
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 No, so obviously you hear people saying that females are women are naturally submissive, men are naturally sort of strong and dominant. Our closest living relative doesn't really live up to that. It is more female centered, and there isn't necessarily as much violence to establish dominance. They have like I said, they have non-reproductive sex with each other, and their social relations are kind of different.
Can you imagine if we were like a species that predominantly found out who the leader was through violence, and then instead of elections we had like gladiator contests, and the winner of that was the new prime minister?
But that's so interesting, right? Because in some cases, having a strong leader is valuable, right? A physically imposing leader is valuable, but also in other cases, it's utterly useless. I don't care how much Boris Johnson can sort of bench press. I just want him to not kill poor people. That's all I want.
Oh, that's a tall,
Boris, that's all I'm asking.
ask, Corey. Come on.
It's a tough one.
He can bench press a lot, maybe.
I'm sure he can. Yeah, I'm sure.
And that's
At
just
least
not
his
good
body
enough
weight.
for you, is it?
No, well, look, as soon as he's able to bench press all the poor he's killed, then we can talk. But until that point, well, not just poor people, sorry, old people as well.
Oh.
Hey, what?
No. Sure.
Am I wrong?
No.
No?
He should be able to bench press all the free meals that were cut to children last year.
Well, the reason they were cut is so that he could bulk. Those meals all went straight to him.
He
Gotta
ate
get his
them.
protein from
That's
somewhere.
an alpha move.
And,
Where do you get your
obviously,
protein? Poor people.
That's where austerity comes from. Margaret Thatcher just wanted to eat all the little poor kids.
That's why she took all the
Stealing
milk
meals from children.
to get all the
Wow.
protein.
One of the most alpha things you can do.
Margaret Thatcher, the only alpha female that's
That's
ever
true,
existed.
yeah.
Theresa May, beta, by the way.
Oh, 100%.
Jesus. How did we get so off track? So, my point here is that bonobos exhibit a slightly different social structure to chimps, and they're also our closest living relatives. So, why do we have this idea of alpha males being the strongest one and make that apply to humans? So, why do we model human behavior on animals? Is my kind of question. And a follow-up question, which we can discuss also, is what determines which animal we choose? So, for example, why did we choose wolves? What did we choose wolves for this? You know, with the alpha beta thing.
Because wolves are scary, and I think men like to see themselves as scary wolves.
Sure, but wolves aren't sort of, evolutionarily all that linked to us. They're fairly distant relatives, you know? Especially looking at the fact that we've got all of the primates to look at, and even chimps and bonobos are two closest living relatives who have different social structures to wolves.
But they're not cool, are they?
On top of that, there are a bunch of animals that have female-centered, like sort of matriarchies, shall we say. You've got hyenas, killer whales, lions, spotted hyenas, which are different from hyenas, bonobos, lemurs, and elephants. All of those are female-led. Why do we not choose any of those? Do you think that maybe when we choose animals to model human behavior after, we're not choosing them?
We're just choosing the one that backs up our argument.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So the idea of wolves being like having alphas and betas, not even wolves do that realistically in the wild. Wolves don't even do that in the wild, but we latched onto that. And there are still people now talking about alphas and betas, unironically, despite the fact that was debunked probably shortly after they were born, right? In 1999. And on top of that, the fact that our two closest living relatives don't even like sort of act like that.
So if you were to
That is
model
not how they
human
act.
society on our two closest living relatives, you'd either have a matriarchy or you'd have a society where the strongest person is prime minister, but he is extremely left-wing.
I mean, yeah. So the Rock becomes the president of the United
And
States.
then
Well, the Rock has to
redistributes
fight
the
Arnold
wealth.
Schwarzenegger for the president of the United States. Yeah, he just goes about kissing babies and giving people food. Exactly.
So
I
there
want to
you
live in that
go.
world.
There you go. People who want to model themselves after animals, those are your options. Either you model yourself after a wolf, which doesn't have alpha at all, or you have a matriarchy, or you have a strong person who redistributes the wealth. Those are your options.
Sorry, we don't make the rules.
Yeah,
Leftists, chimps are leftists. That's how it works.
that's it.
But really, though, I do want to just kind of talk a little bit briefly about modeling human behavior on animals and why I think it's very silly. Because while there are things that we can glean from animals and behaviors that are deeply sort of ingrained in our brains, it's very interesting to look at all that. For example, apparently, some studies have shown that when we look at someone that is physically imposing, if we look at a physically imposing male, we're more likely to think that he would be a good leader. But also, if he's unpleasant, an unpleasant person, we're not more likely to think that he's going to be a good leader. Okay, I mean, yeah, I think that's more or less everything that I wanted to cover. Just the idea that the alpha male. I'm gonna hold this fucking.
Wow, Corey, you look like you're doing a stand-up there.
Oh, really? We both doing stand
We've
up.
got two comedians here.
We both doing stand up here. So my wife the other day said to me, she said,
You're a beta.
she said I was a better man than Jamp.
Ooh.
Fun fact: my wife also dated Jamp. It is a contentious point of our relationship.
She still secretly sleeps with me on the side. I've just disguised myself as a woman.
She disguises herself as a man. So my entire point of this was to give you an idea of where the alpha male myth came from. It came from the idea of wolves having alpha males, which was debunked because they only really have that in captivity. And even when you look at our closest living relatives, chimps and bonobos, only one of them tends to have an alpha male, and the alpha male doesn't fit the archetype of alpha male that is present in popular culture. So all in all, if you think that alpha males exist, stop that. There's not any real scientific backing for it. And ultimately, I would say as well, humans are more than our base instinct. This is something that we haven't really talked about yet, but I do want to bring it up. We're more than our base instinct. If your entire sort of idea is appealing to natural, like sort of appeal to nature, right? Stop. It doesn't make any sense. If that was the case, then we'd be out shitting in the woods. We wouldn't be using toilets or toilet rolls.
True.
Right? You know, we wouldn't have all of the technology that we use to keep babies alive because they suck at being alive. We wouldn't have any of the things that we have now. Human nature is to, in some sense, defy nature, or rather what we sort of believe nature to be. And saying, oh, this is natural, this is the way it should be, that is absolutely not a strong moral argument at all. Because by that logic, the entire society that we have built up, either you have to argue that it is natural, which is an easy way of saying literally everything is natural, or you'd have to completely discard it. A much better way of viewing the world is finding some other kind of moral philosophy to judge what things are good and bad. And whether something is natural or not shouldn't really enter into that because it's entirely arbitrary. So be nice to people and stop trying to use animals to make yourself feel better about being a dick. It's not cool.
Yeah,
You can go live with the bonobos if you want.
You can,
fine.
yeah.
Go for it.
Have lots of sex with you. And hey, look, if you're an incel, right, and you can't get human women,
There you go.
the bonobos would be happy to have you. Absolutely happy.
Fret no longer.
And on that note, it's the end of the show.
Well, it's almost the end of the show. We still have one thing to do. It's the quick fire quiz.
Ooh.
Dun 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 dun. Sigma edition.
So the same rules exist, for every single quickfire quiz. I'll ask one question between the two of you. The first person to answer with the correct answer, after I've finished asking the question, they've also got to buzz in. All the rules, not in the right order. They win. What do they win, champ?
Nothing.
That's goddamn right.
Nothing.
So my question for you both today will be asked after I find out what your buzzers are. Jamp, what's your buzzer?
It's very smooth.
Thank you.
That was my buzzer.
Oh, that's your.
That's
That's
very
your. Thank you, Jamp. I like that. Let me hear it one more time.
It was very smooth.
Oh, Jamp, thanks. Record that for me later. Luke, what's your buzzer?
Ooh, very smooth.
It's going to be confusing.
I have a feeling our buzzers are too similar.
Okay, I'll just go with ooh.
Very nice. So my question for you both today is, what percentage of DNA do bonobos and chimps share with us?
It was very smooth.
Yes, Jamp.
Is it 99.7?
So close. Luke, have you got the right answer?
Ooh, 99.5.
No. I mean, Jamp was close.
It's very smooth.
Jamp was closer in terms of digits. Luke, you were closer sort of numerically.
Is it 97.9?
You guys, it's higher than that. You're getting...
Is it? Oh.
Ooh.
Yes, Luke?
Is it 99.9? 96, 98.9? 99.7?
98.7.
Yes!
Well, you got there in the end.
Oh.
Oh. Luke, you get that one.
Wow.
But
True
you
alpha
take it with some
male
shame
right
as
here.
well. You take it with some shame as well.
Okay.
Oh my god, I forgot to mention ligma males. Oh Christ.
Oh, yeah, ligma males, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
you
my
heard
God,
of ligma
I
males?
forgot about those.
Oh, yeah?
You heard?
Yeah, man.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
I'm so confused. What are you talking about, man?
I'm talking
So
about.
there's alphas, betas, sigmas, and ligmas.
Yeah, I know. I've heard of them.
Heard of what?
Of those types of males.
Look, say it.
No. Say what,
Say it,
Corey?
Luke.
Say what? Could you say it for me once more so that I know what I'm about to say?
I think that's it for this
He's
week.
outsmart. He is a sigma.
He is
a sigma.
he's smarter than I gave him credit
he's
for.
a true ligma.
He's a true ligma.
He is a true ligma.
Ligma balls. Wow.
Honestly, I thought there was like a 50-50% chance that you'd fall for that.
Yeah.
That is it for us this week. Before we go, we would like to thank all of our patrons with a very special thank you to executive producers Ashley Muller and Finn TZ. And also, thank you for watching. You can find the full references for this episode in the description. Subscribe for new episodes every Sunday, and why don't leave us a nice week comment? You can support the pod at patreon.com/SciGuys, or you can find and contact us at SciGuysPod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and at SciGuys on TikTok too. Or you can send us an email at SciGuysPod@gmail.com.
That's sciguyspod@gmail.com.
SciGuysPod.
gmail.com. You can follow me at NotCore everywhere.
I'm champion everywhere.
Lick my ball. You can follow me at Luke everywhere.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I'm so sorry. That was absolutely horrible. Goodbye.